Welcome to Welding with Addie. Today we are taking a tour of Warrenton Steel.
They get rusty, and so a lot of times people aren't too excited to take rusty metals. So after they've been here for a few years, and we put them on sale, and so a lot of people who come up here to do little projects, they'll grab pieces like that, and we have some smaller pieces like that right here. And over here is what we call Warehouse 1, and this is where we keep some of the smaller stock pieces, like we have an expanded metal. Be careful of this, it's really sharp. And
I actually worked with that yesterday.
Worked for your grill.
Yeah.
I saw that.
They're great.
So there's two different types of expanded metal. There's flat. You see how this piece right here is really flat?
Yeah.
And then this is what's standard. So if you look really close on the standard, it's like the two wires crossed over top of each other. And so a lot of times people will use that where they need their grip, like on stairs or in trailers, because there's more grip with the two pieces covering over each other. But for what your project is on the grill, you want that to be flat, right? So that's the two different kinds of expanded metal. And it comes in different thicknesses, but this is the standard stuff that we use. So this is something unique. This is called formed angle. And so a lot of times angle pieces are a perfect 90 degrees. You know what that means? Like when it's straight up like this. Well, this was basically a piece of thin flat bar, and they took it and they bent it. And so it kind of has a curved piece. And this has been around here for a long time. We've had this for years and years. And so this is on sale right now. It's only $1 a foot. So if you have any projects that you need for that, you can use that one. But we've been trying to get people to buy it with trailers. And we could find you. And see how the different these are spray painted with different colors? So they're different thicknesses. We have a sign over there that shows you what the different colors mean on how thick they are. We also have a little gauge because sometimes they come in and they don't have the colors on them. Steven, can I see your gauge for a second?
Sure. Let me make it a little easier for you.
Thank you. Have you ever seen one of these before? So you can see it has different numbers. And so a lot of times somebody will have a project and they know that it has to be a certain thickness. So this is really thick. This is 1/4 inch right there. And so this is going to be really strong, and it would hold things better than something that was really thin like this, which is 1/8 of an inch. Alright, so that's an important thing to know when you're building things, is how thick the glue is. Well, that looks like it is somewhere between 14 gauge and an 8. Sometimes, I guess it's 11. I think you had it. It has to be pretty tight. Is it tight? There you go. And so that looks like it is about 10 gauge. So that's a piece of 10 gauge. 10 or 11. There you go. So this is an important tool that we use around here every day to figure out how thick things are. Yeah. So as you continue in your welding career, you'll probably have to get yourself one of these. Yeah. Give it back to Steven. He's going to be there for me. You guys, Steven. Thank you. So can you tell the difference between this material and this material?
Bob.
That's
ordinary orangish like this. So this is all steel. So this is new. This has not been here for very long. This one's been around for a long time, and so it's kind of got rusty. So these have actually been around even longer. They're a different kind of metal. Do you know what they are? They're aluminum. So aluminum, it does rust, but it rusts much slower than steel does, and when it rusts, it turns kind of whitish. I don't think we really have any in here that's rusty. but this is aluminum and that's steel. So can you tell me the difference in the kind of welding that you would do if you had a piece of aluminum and you needed to weld it? And there's two different main pieces. There's MIG and there's TIG. And I'm pretty sure TIG, right, Dad? Yeah, TIG is aluminum welding, and also for stainless steel. Now, sometimes we'll get pieces of stainless steel in here, and they look just like aluminum. And we can't, if they've been out here for a long time and we're not sure if it's stainless steel or aluminum, do you know what we use to tell?
What?
A magnet. Because a magnet will stick to steel, but it won't stick to aluminum. Yeah, did you know that? You have to try it out sometime. Get yourself a really strong magnet and hold it up to some steel and it'll suck right on there. But if you hold it up to something that you know is aluminum, it won't attach. So that's how we tell the difference in those two. So when customers come in and they ask for something, Steven there, he will help them find exactly what they need, and then he cuts it on this saw if it'll fit in here. And then if it needs to be cut on something bigger, we have bigger saws down there in the other warehouses. So you ready to walk over there? Let's see the driest route here. So one of the biggest things that we sell all day long is house beams and columns. So have you ever been in somebody's basement and they've got the poles that hold the basement up? Have you ever seen that before? No? Well, in the bottom of, with a house with a basement, the house will have a big steel beam to hold up the weight of most of the house, and what holds that up are what they call house columns. You see those kind of reddish brown things right there? Those are columns, and so those will be standing upright in the basement, and they'll be attached to those giant pieces down there. See those big giant pieces? So those are house beams. And there's two different kinds. There's I-beams and there's wide flange beams. So we call them I's or W's. And most of them, if they look like an H, you see that one down there looks kind of like an H? That would be a wide flange beam. And then so if they look like an I on the side, they're right. Out real far on both sides, and they have to be real careful. That's why we have the concrete around the gas containers, so that the big giant beams don't ever hit the gas containers. That could potentially make a big boom, and that wouldn't be fun.
That the water jet uses to cup metal.
Well, there's two things. It's water, high pressure water. So have you ever seen an air compressor where it blows out the air really hard? Not sure. Well, it's compressed water, so it's coming out really hard, really fast, and then they mix in a sand with it that's actually garnet. Do you know what garnet is? You see that red stone right here?
Yeah.
That's a garnet. I wore that today so that you could know. So garnet is a gemstone, and gemstones are expensive because they're very hard. And so the hardness of a gemstone is why they use the garnet. Okay, well then let's go in here so you can get dry. You want to put your goggles on for me? Sure, we can do that. Be really careful where you're walking in here. So these big pieces, this conveyor right here, feeds into that saw down there. So they'll put a giant piece on here and feed it down this conveyor belt into the saw and cut it up in whatever size pieces that they need. Hi, Willie. This is Addie. She's our littlest customer, and she has her own welding channel on YouTube. So we're doing a tour today from her. All right. So Willie is one of our. I'm sorry.
You're gonna show me up.
Oh yeah. Well, he's one of our most gifted welders. Willie is, and he's been with us for a long time. So we're going to show Addie the water jet. Thank you.
So now I actually know one of my questions.
What's that?
If I need it. You build nope. Do you have any welders? Now I know that you have welders.
Yes.
So what kind?
Oh, what kind of welders? Okay, well, Willie does both MIG and TIG. Is that what you mean? On what kind? Yeah. So yeah, we have lots of welders. Water jet is kind of special because it's one of the biggest ones in Missouri. Well, actually in the Midwest. It's 20 foot long by 10 foot wide. And we got it that big so that we can cut these giant pieces of metal that nobody else can cut. So we get in big sheets of titanium.
It's made out of granite.
See, it's almost the same color as that. Mm-hmm. If I had a baggie or something, I'd let you keep it. I'm gonna dump it in my hand. There you
It's
go.
all the same size.
Oh, they put it through something to make it all
Oh,
the
if
same
it's
size?
not the same size,
It won't work right.
That nozzle's only 8 times the size of a human hair.
Oh my gosh.
So it's got, I mean, it's
Gotta be perfect. We build our own basement columns. And in these two booths, remember you asked me what that was? That's the other end of that. We do paint and sandblasting. So this is our paint booth. So we bring things in here and we'll either hang them up or set them down on something. And then we have compressed air that they mix with the paint, and then they spray paint it to get it nice and smooth and perfect. And then we have special fans and filters there on the end that filter the paint out of the air so that the worker, he usually has to wear a big air mask too, because once he's in here, there's all kinds of paint particles in the air, and that's not healthy to breathe. And so we run the filters to help, and he also has to wear a big mask so he's not breathing in the paint. And then you can, kind of stinks in here, doesn't it? That's the chemical that is in the paint. And so we have to run the filters and make sure that everybody's safe when they do it. But this is where we paint things.
And I have a question. What is this?
It's just like that room, only they use it for sandblasting.
Lights.
Did the light go on? Okay, all right. So sandblasting is, or media blasting, there's two different kind of names for it because sand uses actual sand and media uses like a different kind of grit. And it's the same kind of thing as the paint where it's mixed with high pressure air. But if you take sand and you blow it out really, really fast, really, really hard, it will take off the surface of things. So like someone the other day brought in, they had a big cauldron, and it would, you know what a cauldron is? Have you ever seen like witches and they've got the big giant kettle pot? That's a cauldron. They had a big cauldron and they planted flowers in it, but it got really rusty. And so they brought it in and we sandblasted it for them. And basically that took the outside layer off so that it looked like new again. And then they painted it after that, because if you didn't paint it, then it would just rust really quick again. So that's what the sandblaster does. Sometimes people will bring in trailers that they've had for a really long time that have gotten rusty, and we'll sandblast them and then paint them. But that's what this room does. It does the sandblasting. And then you can see that's the sand that they use. It's kind of
How is
neat.
it paint right there?
I think they used this room before for painting as well, because it's enclosed, and it has the same kind of filter system on it, so that it filters the air. So when the person is in here sandblasting the equipment, they also have to wear a big heavy mask because this sand dust gets up into the air, and also whatever it is that they're sandblasting, the itty bitty tiny pieces go up into the air for a little bit before they settle down, and that's also dangerous for them to breathe. So they run big filters to filter the air, and then they also wear a full body suit that goes from head to toe, because if they accidentally went like shroop over their foot, it would hurt very, very bad. It would hurt very badly. So that's yeah, they take it and they shovel it out, and then they put it back into what they call a hopper. You know the thing that we got the sand out, the garnet sand out of? That's called a hopper. And what that does is it holds it and it shakes it down a little bit, and then it feeds it out of a hole in the bottom, and then the hole in the bottom then goes through the tubes and comes out with the compressed air. So they put it back into the hopper and then recycle it. Make sense?
Oh,
See how dirty they are?
yeah. And how sparkly.
Sparkly, yeah. So they put on this helmet, they put on that suit, and then they put on this helmet, which goes all around them, and they have to have special boots and gloves and everything, so all their skin's covered up.
Love.
Yep. In the warehouse one up there, this is a bigger piece with much bigger holes, and we use this in the paint booth. We will set things on it and then paint over it so the paint can kind of go through, and it's not sitting on a solid surface, because if it's on a solid surface, then sometimes the paint will stick to it or it'll leave marks. So that's a giant piece of expanded metal.
Get your steel from?
So have you ever heard of a mill?
A mill?
A steel mill? So a steel mill is a place where they take raw iron from the earth and they melt it and they turn it into liquid, because if you get iron hot enough, then it turns to liquid, and then sometimes they add in different things to make it as strong or the type of steel that they want to make it, and then they form it into different shapes, and that's what they do at steel mills. And so they'll make really giant, super long pieces of one size beam, and then they'll cut it usually into like 40 or 60 foot sections, and then they sell it to people like us. So we buy it from the steel mill.
What kind of metal do you have?
Well, mostly we have steel, but we also have some aluminum, and then sometimes we do titanium. So, but that's pretty much the ones that we deal in.
Is there any math acquired in running a steel yard?
Yes, lots of math all day long. So you saw the little gauge, remember, that I showed you, and we gauged the different pieces?
Oh yeah.
Yeah, so sometimes they have to figure out the strength of things and know like the dimensions of the different things, but mostly it's measuring the long pieces. And so, okay, so your dad just told us that he needed 2 5-foot sections of the formed angle, right, for your project? And so I had to tell my guy how much that's going to be all together. So how much is that going to be? 2 5-foot sections. Do you know? 1 5-foot section plus another 5-foot section.
5 plus
5
5.
plus 5.
10.
10. Yeah, so all together it's 10 feet. So right there, that's math, right? But sometimes there's more complicated math involved. A lot of times there's more complicated math involved. But that kind of gives you an idea of the kinds of math that we do have to do. So yep, lots of math. What else?
What are you hours?
What are our hours? So we open
Are
up,
open.
yes, so we're open Monday through Friday on weekdays from 8 a.m. to 4:30 p.m. Yeah. So, but, and that's in the office where we sell to people. Our shop guys who work out there, our welders and our beam cutters, they get here at 6, and then they go home earlier. Because a lot of the construction workers get started early, and our truck driver comes in about 7, and they have to load him up sometimes. And he has to get to the construction site early in the morning before all the workers get there.
What type of tools do you use for cutting metal?
For cutting metal, well, we use the blow torches, and we have saws, You saw in the warehouse one out there, the circular saw,
Yeah.
the loud one that he turned down when we were
Yeah.
doing the video. Well, that's called a circular saw, and he uses that to cut a lot of the pieces that we sell out of warehouse one over there. And then we have bigger types of saws out in the bigger shed that we use to cut the thicker pieces of metal and plate. You know what plate is, right? Yeah.
Like a plate of metal.
Yes. Yeah. So those we would use like a shear or a different kind of saw.
How do you move metal from storage to the person buying metal?
I think you saw that, didn't you?
Oh, right.
Yeah, with the big giant forklifts. We have a whole lot of different lifts. We have one called a combi lift, which sits kind of upright and it moves sideways. It goes like left to right, whereas the forklifts, they go forward backwards, right? And they use the sideways one called a combi lift to move some of those really, really big 60-foot beams. If they are in a small space, or if they need to get it from outside to inside the warehouse, it wouldn't go forward through that door, would it? No, so they have to go sideways through the door with the combi lift.
You build anything for people?
We build lots of things for people. Have you ever been to Indian Camp Creek? It's close to your house, I think.
Yes.
There's a couple playgrounds out there.
Yeah, I went there for my birthday party.
Did you really? It's a fun place to go. I take my kids there all the time. So somewhere out there, there's a big, it's like a silo, and it's got great metal grating on the sides and like a silo roof. We built that. And there's pictures of us building that out there. Yeah, and next time you're there, you'll have to check it out. And we build handrails and stairs. A lot of the apartments, like if you drive down to Winsville and you see some of the big apartments there off of Highway 70, all the metal handrails and the stairs in a lot of those buildings, we built a lot of those. So we build things that go all over the country, actually.
I'd like to say thank you to everyone at Warrenton Steel. I appreciate you for your time giving me the tour, and I'm looking forward to visiting you again. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and share.